One of the first ones at Clive's party to speak about Whitney's passing the other day.
Yes.
And that was, did you know her well?
Yes, I did. I actually, when I was growing up in the music industry before I had success, I somehow got on her wedding invitation.
Girl, why does Diddy's name keep coming up in theories surrounding high-profile celebrity deaths and strange Hollywood behavior? Now, people are saying that if you look carefully at how he spoke about Whitney Houston, you will see that he knew something about what happened to her. And allegedly, this whole connection oils down to one person. And I'm sure you can already guess who.
Diddy and have they ever had anything past business? Because to me, they seem to mirror each other behavior-wise. Like to me, they both got like that dark energy around them. But I almost wonder, like, well, damn, you know, did they ever have anything? I just wondered that, man, because they're very.
I know some guys who worked personally with, and they had to leave them before they heard that.
Grammy time.
That happened.
And her and Clive had a fight 2 days before. And from what I was told, Bobby Christina was present for some of that fight.
The thing is, Whitney died on the eve of CD's legendary pre-Grammy party, a party that, disturbingly, continued downstairs even as her body lay upstairs in the bathtub. Ask yourself this: why would C keep the party going, knowing very well that the Whitney Houston had died in his house? Why was CD, the very man who discovered her, so unfazed? Now let's bring Diddy into this. Could it be that he knows things we don't, or worse, is involved in networks that operate far beyond the public eye? Some people believe there's a long-standing underground system in the industry that protects certain people and silences others. And if that's true, then what role does Diddy play in it? But here's where it gets even more interesting. See, Bobby Brown has already said that he suspects that there was foul play in not just Whitney's death, but their daughter's as well. And he has said on numerous occasions that Chrissy's ex, Nick Gordon, may have been responsible for not just her death, but Whitney's death as well.
I want the world to know that Bobby Christina did not die from the bathtub incident. That's not what Bobby Christina.
What Bobby Christina?
Bobby Christina was starved.
He knows what happened. I don't know what happened that night, but he does.
You walk through that door and you see her much like you saw Whitney.
However, if word on the street is anything to go by, Bobby Brown also believes that this whole situation goes deeper than just Nick Gordon. And with Whitney's name also coming up during trial, apparently, he's got a lot that he needs to get off his chest. Baby, it's crazy, and I'm going to be talking all about it. Okay, for starters, Whitney's name did come up in trial when Diddy's former assistant Capricorn Clark mentioned both Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey during her testimony in the trial. According to what Capricorn said, she thought Cassie was talented, but was more of a studio artist. When Diddy's lawyer asked her, why do you think she just had talent as opposed to being very talented? She responded, talented to me is Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey. Very talented is that level of performer, entertainer. Cassie was more of a studio artist, a little bit more comfortable in the vocal booth to have a little bit of things equalized for you and, you know, engineered properly. Less of a live performer. Other than this, Whitney's name also came up again when Diddy's lawyer asked Cassie if she remembered the night Diddy OD'd on opiates in February 2012. The lawyer mentioned that this was around the time Whitney died, and Cassie responded, I believe so. That evening, we had a freak-off. We went to a club in San Bernardino, and then he had a party at the Playboy Mansion that night, and I went home. From what he told me, he took a really strong opioid that night, but we didn't know what happened, so we took him to the hospital. Honey, I really have no idea why Whitney's name came up in that context, but people are saying that it is not a coincidence. In fact, regardless of how Whitney's name came up during trial, people have still been digging into any connection Diddy may have had to her death, and apparently there could be something there as well. Y'all know that Whitney was found unresponsive and submerged in the bathtub inside of the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Beverly Hills. Based on reports, Whitney's death was due to accidental drowning in a bathtub, and toxicology results revealed a small amount of Coca-Cola in Whitney's body. Apparently, there were also traces of Xanax, and other substances in her system. So, official reports said that it was possible that Whitney possibly had a heart attack that may have been triggered by hardening of the arteries that caused her to lose consciousness and drown. However, we also know that the coroner did not find any evidence of a cardiac episode or event, so that story about Whitney having a heart attack was probably just a cover-up. In fact, the coroner only noted that Whitney had mild heart disease and some blockage of an artery, like a lot of smokers do. So the idea that she fell into the tub as a result of a heart attack was at least not established by the autopsy report. As for the Coca-Cola levels, the coroner said it seemed she used some, but not a whole lot, so it could not have caused her death. So, the question people have always had is what caused her to become submerged in that tub of scalding water to the point that she could not get herself out. In addition, something else that came up after Whitney's death was that there wasn't enough water in her lungs to prove that she died from drowning, which makes it very likely that someone placed her in the bathtub and she did not pass out while she was in it. Clearly, the death was planned, but who was responsible for orchestrating this death? And why do people suspect that Diddy was involved? Okay, as far as whether Diddy and Whitney ever shared pleasantries, there have been whispers in industry circles that Whitney Houston and Diddy never actually had a real relationship. Not professionally, not personally, not even casually. In fact, some reports suggest that Whitney didn't particularly like Diddy and was wary of his influence in the music scene. Whitney was known to steer clear of what she allegedly called the Hollywood Games, and many insiders say she viewed Diddy as part of the machine she was trying to distance herself from. Yet, after her death, Diddy has been seen giving tributes and speaking on her legacy as if they were close. I mean, have a look at this interview, where Diddy talks to Ellen about how he knew Whitney, for instance.
One of the first ones at Clive's party to speak about Whitney's passing the other day.
Yes.
And that was, did you know her well?
Yes, I did. I actually, when I was growing up in the music industry before I had success, I somehow got on her wedding invitation. So I was at her wedding, but I didn't really know her, but it was like the hottest thing in town for the music industry, but I didn't crash the party somehow. You know, I was a hustler. I got my name on there, me plus one. I went there, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm at Whitney Houston's wedding. You know, I was a big Bobby Brown fan. And then throughout the years, I got to meet her, and she was so full of life, so full of just joy. And she always made you feel like she noticed you and recognized you and spoke to you. And she'll definitely truly be missed.
Yeah.
Was he trying to align himself with her posthumously for image reasons? Why would someone she reportedly distrusted be so quick to claim public kinship once she was no longer alive? Well, allegedly, the connection between Diddy and Whitney is connected to the person people like to call Diddy's master, CD. This is a man with unimaginable influence in the industry, known for building stars and just as easily, allegedly, discarding them when they no longer serve the system. So, could Whitney have become a liability? Was she threatening to tell the truth about something? And did C, with the help of his powerful allies, aka Diddy, make a decision that fateful night? Baby. To a lot of people, this is actually possible considering the alleged relationship between Diddy and his master. See, when it comes to these two, there have also been allegations that CD took advantage of the men he took under his wing. And as we know, that there have already been talks here and there about what may have gone on between CD and Diddy. Intimately. Okay, as you may be well aware, C is already openly bi. In fact, in his memoir, The Soundtrack of My Life, C, who has been married and divorced twice, said he had been involved in 2 monogamous relationships with men for over 20 years. He even wrote that his first intimate encounter with a man was during the era of Studio 54 in the late 70s, and according to him, that chapter of the book he wrote himself. As for how he met Diddy, in an episode of Rock and Roll High School with Pete Ganbarg, C opened up about how he really started working with Diddy. So, when C met with Diddy, Diddy told C that hip-hop should be part of the top 40 mainstream and that the business would change in the future. And while C may not have fully understood what that meant, he was actually willing to give it a try. He was like, Puffy was 23 years old and I knew the artists that I had. Aretha, Dion, Whitney was one kind of music. LaFace ushered in blue-collared R&B at its height. But sensing the hip-hop revolution, both LA and I agreed that we could use someone really attuned to the street. You gotta know what you can do for yourself, and you gotta know when you need need to look to other people. Based on what he said, at the time, Diddy played for Craig Mack's Flava in Your Ear, and then he played 4 or 5 cuts from Notorious B.I.G., and that sort of convinced him. C said in the podcast, I said, okay, you proved your point. That's when I introduced him to the weekly, what we called singles meetings. I introduced him to an executive there as someone who would help lead us to the street. Well, based on what I've seen making rounds, there was a very heavy price that Diddy had to pay for C to fund him. And the speculation has always been that since C gave startup money to Diddy to create Bad Boy Entertainment and continued to finance Bad Boy for years, the price he had to pay was hooking up with him. But allegedly, there was an even bigger price Diddy had to pay. There's a growing theory that the price Diddy had to pay for CD's support and protection in the industry was to handle his dirty work, to be the enforcer behind the scenes, cleaning up messes and silencing problems before they could surface. Some believe that this sinister role extended to people who became liabilities, and I'm talking about people like Whitney Houston. And if you look closely, Bobby Brown has been dropping hints for years, in interviews, in his memoirs, and in his emotional outbursts, almost as if he's been trying to tell the world without saying it outright that he knows what happens to Whitney. Well, people have also said that Bobby Brown is crazy for saying the things he says, but what if he was right all along? Chill. Personally, I'm still trying to wrap my head around all these allegations, but do you think Bobby Brown was onto something? Do you also see the connection between Diddy, his master, and Whitney Houston? Honestly, I can't wait to know what you think, so sound off in the comments section below.